Hey everyone. Getting car insurance for the first time as a student can feel a little overwhelming, right? Like, are you supposed to afford this on top of everything else?
Yeah, definitely. It's tough.
And so many of you have sent in this article from My Insurance Advice UK. It's called How to Find the Best Student Car Insurance Deals for Young Drivers. And
I think it's a really good one.
yeah, it's got a ton of helpful info. So today, we're gonna dive in and try to break down the whole car insurance thing, help you guys feel confident that you're getting the best deal possible.
Absolutely.
So the first thing this article talks about is figuring out what kind of coverage you actually need. They mention stuff like liability, collision, comprehensive.
Yeah, and right off the bat, I think that's such a key point, It's not just about getting the cheapest option, but really understanding what's going to protect you best.
Yeah, for sure. I actually remember the first time I got car insurance.
Oh, yeah.
I was so confused by all those terms. What even is liability?
So, think of it this way. Imagine you're trying to leave that super packed student parking lot after class, right? And you accidentally back into somebody's car.
Oh, I've been there.
Oh, we've all been there. So liability coverage is what's going to step in and protect you in that situation. It basically covers damage you might cause to other people or their property.
So it's kind of like the bare minimum to make sure you're legally covered.
Exactly. Yeah. Most states actually require you to have at least some level of liability insurance. But the important thing is to really understand what your specific policy covers and what the limits are.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So then what about collision and comprehensive? How are those different?
So collision coverage is kind of like your safety net if you're ever in an accident with another car. It helps to cover the costs of repairing or replacing your own vehicle, regardless of who is at fault.
Okay, so that's for if I finally mess up that parallel parking attempt.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh,
or,
cool.
if you hit a patch of black ice in the winter, anything like that.
Got it. And what about comprehensive?
So comprehensive is like the superhero coverage. It protects you from stuff that's not directly related to a collision. So think like theft, vandalism, a tree falls on your car during a storm.
Or hail damage, right?
Exactly. Hail damage, fire, even, if a deer runs out in front of you.
Oh my God.
It's there to protect you from those unexpected events.
Okay, so that makes a lot more sense now. So we've got liability, collision, and comprehensive. But the article also mentions that the actual car you drive plays a big role in how much you pay for insurance.
Oh, yeah, big time. Insurers look at all sorts of things. The value of your car, obviously how safe it is, even how likely it is to get stolen.
So if I'm driving around in a flashy sports car,
Probably going to be paying a bit more for insurance.
makes sense.
Yeah. They're statistically more likely to be involved in accidents or get stolen. So if you're rocking that old reliable sedan, you might actually be in a good spot.
I knew there was a reason I kept this old thing running.
Right. And plus, older cars often cost less to repair, which insurers also like. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets kind of tricky. Even little things you do to modify your car.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Even if they seem small, it can actually impact your premiums.
If I get some nice new rims or something.
Yep. Those rims could increase the value of your car in the eyes of the insurance company. So they're going to charge you more to insure it. Same goes for fancy sound systems or even a custom paint job.
So it's not just the car, it's how tricked out it is.
Pretty much. It's all about how insurers assess risk.
Okay, so we've talked about the types of coverage in the car itself. But now the big question. How do we actually find the best insurance deal?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And the article has some really great advice about this. They really stress the importance of shopping around. Don't just jump on the first quote you see, So,
Don't be afraid to shop around.
Yeah.
But there are so many insurance companies. Where do you even start?
well, those online comparison tools can be super helpful. You just put in your information once, and they pull quotes from tons of different companies. It's like having a personal shopper for car insurance.
That sounds so much easier than calling each company individually.
Right. It saves you so much time and hassle. But the article also suggests actually reaching out to insurers directly.
Wait, why is that?
Because sometimes those online quotes are just estimates. And by talking to a real person, you can often get a more accurate quote, maybe even find some discounts that the online tools missed, and they can answer any specific questions you have.
Right, so it's combining the ease of using those online tools with the personal touch of talking to an actual human.
Exactly. You get the best of both worlds.
Okay, I like it. Now, did you see the part about local insurers and credit unions?
Oh, yeah, those can be great options. They sometimes have lower operating costs than those big national companies.
So that means,
Lower premiums for you. Potentially. And they might have a better understanding of the specific risks in your area, which could lead to even more savings.
I never thought to look into those.
Yeah, worth checking out.
Okay, but here's the thing. The article talks about being careful of super low premiums, the ones that sound too good to be true.
Yes.
Like, why is that?
It's so tempting to go for the absolute cheapest option. But imagine this. You get into an accident and suddenly you realize your super cheap insurance has all sorts of limitations and exclusions. You could end up paying way more out of pocket than you saved on those monthly premiums.
Ouch, that's a painful lesson.
Right. It's really all about finding that balance between affordability and making sure you have the right coverage.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But you know what really caught my eye in this article?
What's that?
The section about discounts.
Ah, yes, the student-specific discounts. They're pretty awesome.
I know, right? There's a whole world of discounts just for us.
Exactly.
Tell me everything.
Okay, so first up, the good student discount. If you're keeping those grades up, hitting the books,
Try my best.
insurers see that as a sign of responsibility, and they often give discounts for it. Basically, they figure if you're responsible enough to get good grades, you're probably responsible enough to be a safe driver too.
Okay, I can get behind that logic.
Right. So make sure you're taking advantage of that if you can.
But wait, there's more, right?
Oh yeah, there's more. Have you heard of bundling?
I think so, but honestly, not really sure what it means.
So let's say you're living with family and they have home insurance. Bundling is when you combine your car insurance with their existing home insurance policy, all into the same provider.
Oh, so it's like a package deal.
Exactly. And insurers often give big discounts for bundling. It simplifies things for everyone and can save you a bunch of money.
Okay, cool. What other discounts are lurking out there?
Well, there are safe driving discounts. Basically, insurers love safe drivers because they're less likely to file claims. So they offer things like discounts for taking a defensive driving course or for maintaining a clean driving record.
I've always wondered about those defensive driving courses.
Oh, they can be great. I actually took one a few years back, and it seriously changed my whole perspective on driving.
Really?
Yeah, it made me much more aware of my habits behind the wheel.
I might have to look into that. And wait, wasn't there something about an app?
Oh, yeah. That's the usage-based insurance program they talk about. It's becoming super popular.
So what's that all about?
Basically, it's an app that tracks your driving habits. It looks at things like your speed, your braking, even what times of day you drive. And if you consistently drive safely, you can earn some pretty sweet discounts on your premiums.
Wait, so if I'm a good driver, this app can actually help me save money?
Yep. It's definitely worth considering, especially if you don't drive a ton or you're confident in your driving skills.
Okay, I'm sold. So we've covered like the types of coverage, how our car impacts rates, and all those amazing discounts. What else do we need to think about?
Well, one thing the article really stresses is the importance of regularly reviewing your car insurance policy. Because, life changes, your driving habits change, and even the insurance market itself is constantly evolving.
Okay, so it's not just set it and forget it. I got to stay on top of it.
Right. And this is where things can get a little tricky. It can feel like a moving target sometimes. Like, what are some specific situations where you should definitely review your coverage?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, let's say you find yourself driving less. Maybe you're taking more online classes.
Yeah.
Or maybe you've landed a sweet internship that's close enough to bike.
Right.
You might actually be eligible for a low mileage discount.
Less driving, lower insurance costs.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it. But what if, like, the opposite happens? What if I'm driving more? Say I pick up a part-time job or I've got those late-night study group sessions.
Right.
Like, do I need to adjust things then?
That's another great point, and the article does touch on that too. If your driving habits change in a big way, like you're suddenly commuting a longer distance or you're doing more night driving, which tends to be riskier, it's definitely a good idea to check in with your insurer. Make sure your coverage still fits your needs.
Okay, so like my insurance needs to kind of grow along with all these life changes.
Exactly. And speaking of life changes, what happens when you upgrade your car? Like, let's say you trade in that old clunker for a shiny new hybrid.
Finally.
A new car smell is great, but it does come with some insurance implications.
Oh, of course.
A newer car, especially one with a higher value, might mean you need to bump up your coverage levels.
Right.
But on the plus side, newer cars often come with all those cool safety features, lane departure warnings,
Yeah.
automatic emergency braking, and those can often score you some nice discounts.
So it's kind of a trade-off. Higher coverage costs, maybe because the car's worth more, but potentially offset by discounts for those safety features.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll take those odds. But the article also says that even things that seem totally unrelated to driving can impact insurance.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like what?
Well, for starters, moving.
Oh, right.
Even if it's just to a different part of town, different areas come with different risks. Think like crime rates, the number of accidents that happen in a specific neighborhood. Insurers consider all of that when they calculate your premiums.
Wow, so even if I'm driving the same, just moving to a new place could change my rates.
It's definitely possible. And then there are those big life changes like moving in with family or getting roommates.
Yeah.
You might want to think about bundling those policies together like we
Yeah.
talked about earlier, or adjusting your coverage based on how you share vehicles.
Makes sense. Because, like, if I'm only driving my car a couple times a week,
Right.
I probably don't need the same level of coverage as someone who's on the road every day.
Exactly. It's about making sure everyone's protected without paying for stuff you don't need.
Love it.
And, here's another thing. The insurance market itself is always changing. There are new discounts popping up all the time.
Yeah.
Insurers are always adjusting their policies.
It feels impossible to keep up.
It can be tough.
Yeah.
Plus, regulations change, new technologies emerge, even things like the economy can impact how insurers set their rates.
Oh, wow.
The article really highlights how important it is to stay informed and shop around regularly to make sure you're not missing out on savings or better coverage options.
Okay, so it's not enough to just find a decent policy and then forget about it.
Yo,
Got to be proactive, got to stay on top of it.
think of it as being a savvy consumer.
Mm-hmm.
A little effort can go a long way in saving you money and making sure you have the right protection.
Knowledge is power.
It really is.
Yeah.
Especially with car insurance. But, this article gets into some pretty nitty-gritty stuff about actually understanding your policy.
Oh, yeah. Got to get into the details.
And this is where it gets really important. Because knowing the ins and outs of your policy can make a huge difference in how well you're protected.
Okay, so where do we start? What should we be looking for?
Well, let's talk about coverage limits first. Those basically determine the maximum amount your insurance company will pay out for a covered claim.
Okay.
It's crucial to understand what your limits are and make sure they're actually high enough to protect you, like in a worst-case scenario.
Right.
Now, have you ever heard of deductibles?
Oh, yeah. I hear that word thrown around a lot, but I'm not sure I totally get it.
Okay, so think of a deductible as your share of the cost if you have to file a claim.
Okay.
So let's say your deductible is $500 and you get into an accident that causes $2,000 worth of damage to your car. You'd be responsible for paying that $500 deductible, and your insurance company would cover the rest.
Okay, so higher deductible means I pay more upfront if something happens, but it also usually means my monthly premiums are lower.
Exactly. It's a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
Choosing the right deductible is all about finding that balance between what you're comfortable paying out of pocket and how much you want to save each month.
Got it. What else should we be on the lookout for in our policies?
You know how they always say to read the fine print?
Oh, yeah.
That definitely applies to car insurance policies.
Okay.
Pay close attention to the policy exclusions. Those are basically the things that are not covered by your insurance.
So, like, what kind of things?
For instance, some policies might exclude coverage for certain types of modifications to your car, or maybe there are limitations on coverage for ride sharing if you decide to drive for like a ride-hailing app. It's super important to know exactly what you're signing up for.
Yeah, no surprises.
Right.
Wow, this has been a seriously informative deep dive.
It has.
We've covered the basics of coverage types, shopping for quotes, and even gotten into the nitty-gritty of deductibles and exclusions.
And along the way, we've uncovered some really valuable strategies.
Yeah.
Understanding your needs, shopping around, snagging those student discounts, staying on top of your policy as your life changes.
Finding the best student car insurance deal isn't about luck. It's about being informed and taking charge.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap things up, this article ends with a really thought-provoking question, and I think it's something every student listening should ask themselves. They ask, what's one step you can take today to start saving on car insurance? It's a good question, right? Like, what's that one small action you can take right now to get started?
I think it could be something as simple as just digging out your current policy and taking a few minutes to really look it over. Do you understand all the terms and conditions? Are you actually getting all the discounts you're eligible for?
Yeah, that's a great first step. Or maybe you're feeling super motivated and you're ready to jump on those comparison websites we talked about, see what's out there, get a sense of the different options and prices.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Or maybe even challenge yourself to call up your current insurer and ask about those student-specific discounts. You never know. You might be surprised at what they offer.
Yeah, it never hurts to ask. The important thing is to take that first step. Don't let car insurance feel like this big, scary, confusing thing. You got this.
Absolutely. You've got this. And hey, if you come across any other awesome car insurance tips or tricks along the way, let us know. We'd love to hear from our listeners.
Yeah, for sure. We're all in this together. All right, that's it for our deep dive on student car insurance.
Until next time.
Drive safe out there.
And may your premiums be ever in your favor.